God bless everyone. Today, I will share the heart-stopping testimony of a woman named Diana, whose life took an unimaginable turn in a way that left her forever changed. Through a chilling and surreal encounter, Diana was confronted with a dark, soul-piercing truth about her beliefs and given a haunting glimpse into eternity. What she saw will shock you and leave you questioning the path you're on. Now, I'm going to read Diana's letter just as it is, and together we will uncover the sin that led her to a terrifying vision of hell and the profound, life-saving lesson she learned from Jesus himself. For as long as I can remember, I've carried a heavy emptiness deep within me, an aching void that seemed to grow with each passing year. My name is Diana, and at 35 years old, I found myself consumed by a desperate longing to uncover the true meaning of life. The routines of daily existence felt hollow, as though I was trapped in a world that offered no answers. Seeking solace, I immersed myself in the teachings of spiritual figures like Dolores Cannon, Alan Watts, and Osho. Their words promised enlightenment, a path to understanding the mysteries of existence, and a connection to something greater than myself. I devoured their content, clinging to every phrase that hinted at hope. I began to embrace the belief that my soul had lived countless lives, each journey shaping the person I was today. The concept of universal energy resonated deeply within me, giving me a sense of belonging to a cosmic rhythm far beyond this earthly plane. I was captivated by the idea that spiritual awakening could free me from the mundane and elevate me to a higher realm of understanding. Enlightenment became my ultimate goal, a beacon in the darkness of my restless heart. I practiced meditation, sought signs in nature, and even explored the use of spiritual objects to connect with this unseen reality. Yet, for all my efforts, the promised fulfillment eluded me. No matter how deeply I dove into these teachings, a persistent emptiness gnawed at my soul, an unshakable sense that something was still missing. I began to question everything. Was the reality I was chasing genuine, or was I merely losing myself in an illusion? The teachings that once felt so profound began to blur, leaving me confused and uncertain. The ache in my spirit grew stronger, pulling me into a spiral of doubt and despair. It was in the midst of this turmoil that my journey took a shocking and unimaginable turn, one that shattered everything I thought I knew. But to understand what happened next, you must hear the story of the day my reality began to unravel. That morning started like so many others, with me sitting in quiet meditation, seeking peace and clarity. But something felt different. A strange heaviness lingered in the air, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. After finishing my meditation, I decided to clear my mind with a walk through the bustling city streets. The sun was shining, and an autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves, but instead of feeling refreshed, an unsettling weight pressed down on me. With each step, it grew stronger, like an invisible hand tightening its grip on my chest. I couldn't shake the sensation that something was about to happen, something beyond my control. As I walked further, the world around me began to change in ways I couldn't comprehend. The familiar sounds of the city, the chatter of people, the hum of cars, faded into an eerie silence. My heart raced uncontrollably, pounding so hard it felt as though it might burst. My vision blurred, and the vibrant colors of the world around me dimmed into shadowy hues. My legs grew weak, and before I could steady myself, I collapsed to the ground. In that moment, everything went dark. Yet, I was still aware, not of my body, but of my soul. It was as if I had shed the physical world entirely. I felt weightless, yet pulled by an overwhelming force, spiraling into the unknown. I found myself moving through an endless tunnel, a swirling vortex of darkness that seemed to stretch on forever. The air grew colder with every passing moment, the chill biting into the very essence of my being. There was no light at the end of this tunnel, only an oppressive presence that grew stronger as I was drawn closer to it. The energy was suffocating, menacing, and filled with a sense of despair I had never known. I wanted to turn back, to escape, but the force pulling me was too strong. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I could feel it waiting for me, something beyond comprehension and more terrifying than I could have imagined. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of what I was about to witness. When my soul emerged from the endless tunnel, I was plunged into a world so horrifying it defied all comprehension. The air itself was thick with despair, pressing against me like an invisible weight. I stood amidst fire, not a physical flame that could burn flesh, but a spiritual fire that pierced to the core of my being. It seared my soul, filling me with an unrelenting anguish I couldn't escape. Around me were tormented souls, their cries echoing through the oppressive darkness. They clung desperately to objects they had cherished in life, spiritual stones, talismans, and relics they believed held power. But here, in this place of endless torment, these objects offered no salvation. Instead, they crumbled and reformed, trapping the souls in a relentless cycle of despair, a painful reflection of the false hopes they had pursued. As I moved through this infernal landscape, I came face to face with figures I recognized: Carl Jung, the famed psychologist, and Osho, the spiritual teacher whose words I had once found so inspiring. Yet here, in this hellish realm, they were mere shadows of the powerful figures they had been in life. Jung sat alone in a corner, his gaze hollow and his expression heavy with remorse. "I refused to face reality," he admitted, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 regrets. He explained how his teachings, though insightful, had distorted truths and led countless souls astray. Nearby, Osho stood amidst a sea of tormented followers, his face etched with profound sorrow. "I misunderstood," he whispered, his words dripping with regret. He watched helplessly as those who had sought freedom and enlightenment through his teachings were consumed by the very desires they had tried to transcend. Their revelations shook me to my core. These towering figures, whose philosophies I had admired and absorbed, admitted that their teachings had not illuminated the truth, but obscured it. They had led countless people, myself included, away from the narrow path of God and into a spiritual wilderness. Their remorse was palpable, their despair a warning of the dangers of chasing illusions. The gravity of their words and the torment I saw around me left no doubt in my mind. My own pursuit of enlightenment had been a dangerous deception. But the question that gnawed at me was this: if the path I had followed was so wrong, where could I possibly turn now? I pressed on, desperate to find answers, unaware of the life-altering truth waiting just ahead. The atmosphere around me was like nothing I had ever experienced, a dark, suffocating void that seemed to press in from every direction. The very air was heavy with despair, thick enough to feel as though it might crush me at any moment. The darkness wasn't just a lack of light, it was alive, creeping into the cracks of my soul and amplifying every fear, every regret, every ounce of pain I had ever buried. Echoing through this void were the screams of countless souls, each cry more agonized than the last. Their voices wove together into an unbearable symphony of suffering that seemed endless. There was no hope here, no escape, only despair so absolute it became a presence in itself. Beneath my feet, the ground writhed and pulsed, as though it were alive, a twisted reflection of the agony above it. Each step felt like a struggle against the pull of the earth, an oppressive energy dragging me down with relentless force. The burning landscape stretched endlessly, but this fire was not one of physical heat. Instead, it was a searing torment that reached deep into my soul, unearthing every hidden wound and laying it bare. The fire consumed not my body, but the very essence of who I was, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. The air carried a heavy stench of despair and failure, a cruel reminder of the choices that had brought these souls, and perhaps myself, to this place. Everywhere I looked, symbols of what had once been my pursuit of peace and enlightenment were transformed into instruments of torment. I saw souls clutching meditation tools, spiritual objects, and sacred relics, their once comforting presence now binding them in cycles of endless suffering. Chanting mantras brought no solace. Instead, they echoed like hollow cries for a peace that would never come. The search for higher vibrations, for inner light, had become a trap that kept them falling deeper into this void. The very things I had once relied on to bring me closer to truth and freedom were now revealed as chains, holding these souls, and perhaps myself, in this torment. But I couldn't stop now. Something compelled me forward, a faint pull in the midst of the chaos, as if the answers I desperately needed lay just ahead. When I awoke, the suffocating darkness and relentless torment of hell were gone. In their place was a radiant, peaceful light that enveloped me in warmth and love. The light wasn't just around me, it was within me, filling every hollow space that had once ached with emptiness. As my vision adjusted, I saw a figure standing before me, his presence radiating an indescribable sense of compassion and authority. My breath caught in my chest as I realized who it was. Jesus. His face was gentle yet firm, and his eyes seemed to see straight into the depths of my soul, understanding everything I had been through without a word spoken. Tears streamed down my face as I felt an overwhelming wave of relief, awe, and unworthiness all at once. Jesus spoke, and his words resonated with a power that seemed to echo not only in the space around me, but within my very being. He quoted verses from the Bible, each one cutting through the confusion and deceptions I had clung to. "Enter through the narrow gate," he said, his voice both commanding and kind. "For wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." I hung on every word, feeling the truth of it resonate within me. He continued, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." These words, once abstract to me, now carried an undeniable weight. I realized I had spent my life walking the broad road, chasing illusions and false teachings, when the true path had always been before me. In that moment, everything became clear. My relentless pursuit of spiritual awakening, enlightenment, and universal energy had been misguided. I had sought answers in the wrong places, putting my faith in teachings and practices that led me further from the truth. It wasn't through stones, mantras, or philosophies that I could find peace and purpose. It was through Jesus alone. His light illuminated the lies I had believed and revealed the true freedom that comes from following his path. I felt a deep sense of conviction, but also a profound sense of hope. This wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. As I stood there, basking in the warmth of his light, I knew I had to share what I had seen, what I had learned. But even as I felt this peace, I couldn't help but wonder, what would happen to those still trapped in the darkness? Could they find their way to this light, or would they remain lost forever? Diana's testimony is a powerful reminder of the life-changing truth that comes from walking with Jesus. With heartfelt gratitude, she resolved to leave behind her misguided beliefs and embrace his teachings as the only path to true freedom and peace. Now, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. Are you following the narrow road that leads to life, or have you been misled by illusions? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story could inspire someone to seek God's truth today.